opening to oneness. My Dharma talk on Saturday, I spoke about this, opening to oneness, this practice, this dharma of opening. So I want to just continue my expression, my appreciation of this. Hongzhi said in his teaching called Simply Drop Off Everything. Silently dwell in the self, in true suchness, abandon conditioning. Open-minded and bright, without defilement, simply penetrate and drop off everything. Today is not your first arrival here. I'm going to be bringing a bit of Hongzhi laced into this talk, and I'm going to do it. I'll be repeating some parts, and then I'll be bringing more parts in. So Hongzhi can have this very incantatory effect. So that's my hope, is that it kind of works that way. So feel free to close your eyes and just take in the Dharma talk, not with your analytical mind, but just at a deeper level. Open-minded and bright. So this open-mindedness, we think of being open-minded, we're open to new experiences, we're open to new perspectives, we're open to new ideas, we're open to new people in our lives. And this is an important part of the open-mindedness that Hongzhi is talking about, that I'm talking about as a practice in the Dharma. But in some way, it's kind of the external aspect of the open-mindedness, is to be open to new and other perspectives, people, experiences coming in. Okay? The real openness that we're talking about here in opening to oneness is opening to the inner experience of all things and all beings. It's being open to the inner texture of our own experience, opening to the parts of ourselves that we've closed off, disowned, forgotten, ignored, and opening back up to those. And this kind of openness requires turning the light inward. That's the phrase from Hongzhi, turning the light inward. And then opening up to this, what we come to see is a vast internal realm. So this whole practice of turning the light inward is a little counterintuitive. It can be a little counterintuitive because our orientation is just always to the outside and to externals, to give ourselves definition, understanding, orientation. We're always looking for qualities, states, beings. Now, even when we turn inside in meditation, all of us have been practicing meditation for quite a while, most of us. Even when we turn in meditation, we can initially discover things that still remain somewhat external to ourselves, you could say. If we're witnessing states or we're witnessing our thoughts, there can now be a separation in that. So in a way, we've kind of just transferred our abstractedness from the externals onto our internals. And we're now looking for the map of our interior experience. I think maybe maybe there's a lot of therapy that sort of works this way, is we can maybe look inside our minds and then look for, well, what is the structure of my psyche? What is the map of my being, of myself, of my personality? And in that way, it's almost still an external. It's still something I'm observing. It's the map, it's not the territory. Witnessing in this way can be a dead end, if we maintain that separation between ourselves and what we're witnessing. And in the same way, the world can remain just our environment. What we are within. Not us ourselves, but that which we are within. But when we turn the light inward, it becomes participatory. As we go inward in our meditation, the outside, you could say, recedes. And we go very deep inside into the silence and the stillness of our source consciousness. And we develop this samadhi, which is almost like a gravitational force that pulls us into this consciousness when we develop our meditation practice to a certain level of maturity. And then in that silence and that stillness, what do we find? Bong. The bell rings. The fly lands on our face. A shout from the other room. An emotion wells up. Well, all those things that were there on the so-called outside are right here. I actually haven't gone anywhere. The outside, the so-called outside, is right here. In the depth of my own being, of my own awareness. I thought I was deep down inside myself, at the bottom of the ocean. And I am. In one moment, it can be experienced that way. But everything is right here. Before it was outside of me, but now I see that it is inside of me. And I am inside of it. Inside and outside are not separate. This is opening to oneness. In another teaching titled 10 Billion Illuminating Spirits, Hongzhi says, the way wanders in the empty middle of the circle, reaching the vacancy where appearances are forgotten. From this singular impact, many thousands of roads open, and all things are preeminent. With this unification, I radiantly speak the dharma. The self divides into 10 billion distinct illuminating spirits. The way wanders in the empty middle of the circle, reaching the vacancy where appearances are forgotten. When a motel has a sign out front, vacancy, they have rooms available, open rooms, open for our habitation, for our life. So we reach the vacancy where appearances are forgotten. This is the vacancy, the openness within ourselves, where appearances are forgotten. It's like we should hang a sign outside of ourselves saying vacancies, open for everyone and everything to come and spend time here, in my being. You're welcome. It's a place where appearances are forgotten. So appearances can kind of bring in the concept of a externality, right? Be a opposition between the substance and the appearance. It's kind of a classic way of looking at things. So there's something, there's some essence, and then it appears in a certain way. I'm a person, and I appear in a certain way. But within that, there's this feeling that the substance is not the appearance. Well, that's just the appearance. That's just the way they look. That's just the way it looks. That's just the way it seems. There's something else, deeper. So sometimes this is a wise perspective to see this separation. But Hongzhi is pointing to this place where that separation too gets nullified. We have some koans about appearance and disappearance. Famous one about the ducks flying, which I've mentioned many times here. Where have they gone? And the student says they've flown away. The master tweaks his nose. What do you mean, where is this flown away? Appear, then disappear. No, this appearance is forgotten. This disappearance is forgotten. So in this empty middle of the circle that we wander into in our practice, there is no separation between appearance and substance, no separation between here and not here, no separation between life and death, no separation between me and you. That separation is forgotten. And this is forgotten in Dogen sense. To study the way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. We're no longer bringing that type of isolating consciousness to the separation. We are opening to both of them coexisting, everything coexisting, open to oneness. The way wanders in the empty middle of the circle, reaching the vacancy where appearances are forgotten. The pure ultimate self blazes, brilliant simply from inherent illumination. Facing the boundary of the object world without yet creating the sense gates, realize the subtlety of how to eliminate the effects of the swirling flow of arising and extinction. Rely only on the source of creation. If you feel a shadow of a hair's gap, nothing will be received. Just experience and respond appropriately. From this singular impact, many thousands of roads open, and all things are preeminent. With this unification, I radiantly speak the Dharma. The self divides into 10 billion distinct, illuminating spirits. This oneness is not what we think it is. This oneness, this unification, is the self dividing into 10 billion distinct illuminating spirits. We experience the whole of reality in each specific thing. Every blade of grass, every kernel of rice, every stone, every flower, every feeling, every emotion, every moment, unique, every being, unique. In a sip of tea, in a word, in a gesture, in a perspective, in a limited perspective. Well, all perspectives are limited. And we think its limitation is what keeps us from oneness. No, its limitation is what gives us access to oneness. When we fully open to the perspective. When we fully open to things as things, we're actually fully experiencing their limitations, their edges. The limitation is actually how we connect with the whole. Right? My walls separate me from the outside. My house, in my house, you could say, or in my ego even, if you want to use that analogy. But they're also my interface with the outside. The space between us right now, as bodies, separate us. But it's the actual substance of the intermediary between us. It connects us. There's no obstacle. There's no distance here. So we can meditate on this space between. It's actually a nice meditation to do. You can sit on a park bench and look at the trees. And instead of meditating on the tree or the leaf or the sky, meditate on the space between you and the tree, and the space between the trees. Something happens when you do this. Has anyone ever done this type of meditation? Yeah. Opens up quite profoundly. The empty field opens. 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 This is actually how koans work, is that we start with a koan and it feels like a wall. And there's an obstacle there. What does this mean? I want to understand this. What is going on here? And so we hit our minds up against it, our analytical minds, trying to understand what's going on here. But then we turn inward and we embody the question. We hold that question as ourselves. Our mind gets full with the question itself. So now we've become the wall. We've become the interface to the outside, or whatever's on the other side of that particular wall. So this is our koans of everyday life. There's, whenever we come up to an edge, whenever it's, oh, what's going on here? Okay, there's something here. I have this question. There's something keeping me from being, really engaged with this person or this issue, or I've got a question and I'm just not feeling in harmony with it. Great. That's your koan right there. So really embody it. Go into it. Feel it. Feel whatever pain or heartbreak you might be feeling. Feel whatever confusion you might be feeling. Open yourself to the question that's arising in that moment. What is this? What is this? What is going on right here? And then you might find anger, you might find heartbreak, you might find sadness, you might find a question. And you keep going and open to the texture of that experience. That's the inner turn, always opening to the inner texture of the experience. That's koan practice. Embody the question. The self divides into 10 billion distinct illuminating spirits. Distinguish these without falling into names and classifications, and accord fully without effort. The mirror is clear and magnanimous. The valley is empty but echoes. From the beginning, unbound by seeing or hearing, the genuine self romps and plays in samadhi without obstruction. When enacted like this, how could it not be beneficial? According fully without effort. In my talk last week, I talked about medicine and sickness accord with each other. So past and present accord with each other. You and I accord with each other. Buddha and sentient beings accord with each other. When we open to oneness. Silently dwell in the self, in true suchness, abandon condition. Open-minded and bright, without defilement, simply penetrate and drop off everything. Today is not your first arrival here.